So let's try to formulate another sentence. So this time I want to say, I want jam. So let's imagine this
Sutej.
child is wanting to ask you for jam. So I go about saying, choosing I, and then I choose want. And then I want to say jam, but I don't see jam here, right? None of these, it's not visible. So let me go to eat. And here also, I don't see the word jam. So what do I do? There is a feature called search feature. So you hit on that, and then in the search bar, you type the word you're looking for. Okay, jam. So when I do that, this pops up for me. So this is the path. So when you click on see path, okay, so it says advanced, eat, breakfast. So it's in the advanced folder, and within the advanced folder, there is a subfolder, eat subfolder, and within that folder, there's breakfast folder, and then you'll find the word jam. So when you do see path, when you hit see path, it will automatically guide you to that
Home.
word. So advanced, eat, breakfast, and jam. Now,
I want jam.
We hit the message bar. I want jam. So when we are new to the app, the child is of course new, and even as a parent or a therapist, you're new to the app. We will not apparently know where every word is. So that's where the search feature comes into rescue. So you can search for any word that you're looking for, and if it is there, if it's there in the library, it will show you the path. It will show you the navigation, and that's also a very important aspect of learning to use the app. Okay, so I hope you're all able to formulate a sentence. And now, as you can see here, when the sentence is complete, when I'm done with my message, on the message bar, I see a share button. So the share button is useful when you have to share this message with another person, right? So if I have to share this message, I can share it via WhatsApp. The Android version, on the Android version, you can share it via WhatsApp. And it also has an option of sharing it via an email. So these are all the options, messages, and on other platforms. So you can share a message. So I would like to show you a snippet of what children have shared and how it is useful. So this is an example of message sharing feature. So very commonly, children do share messages. AAC users do share these kind of messages, such as "Happy Birthday." So it's possible to share it with family member or friend. In another instance, the child said, "Want red lace chips," and it was shared with the parent. And on their way back, they were expected to get lace chips. So this is how it looks on the right hand side. This is how it looks at the receiver's end. So they get the message via WhatsApp or email or iMessage, whatever, wherever they share it. So this feature is really useful for making communication very realistic, and the child can immediately see the effect of it, right? So when they say happy birthday to a family member and they share it, and then the family member replies to the message, they can immediately see the effect of their communication, right? And in the second example that I gave you, the parent brings home a packet of Lay's chips. The child is must be really elated because the effect of the communication is really visible and concrete in that case. So this is one way of promoting meaningful communication. So this is one very wonderful feature that can be, inculcated. So here's an example of a snippet of a child formulating a message on his device. So let me play it.
I want.
So the child is going to the play folder.
Skateboard.
And selecting the
I want play skateboard.
You want skateboard activity. Okay. So that was an example of a child formulating a message. So far we have been working on the picture mode. So there is, on the left-hand side, where I'm pointing, you can see keyboard. So we saw in the previous module some of the robust features, some of the features that make an AAC app robust. So Avaz has both picture mode and keyboard mode. So you can switch from picture mode to keyboard mode. So when you select keyboard, it takes you to the keyboard layout. So this is where you can type messages. So this is the QWERTY keyboard layout that you get. Okay, so you can
G-O-O-D.
So this is how you can type messages on the keyboard. So
delete word.
If you have to go back to the picture mode, you select pictures and transition back to picture mode. So picture mode is the
footage.
Using the symbols, using the pictures, basically relying on pictures.
Go back.
So here's a quick recap before going into the settings. Here's a quick recap of what we went through. So we have iOS and the Android version. I took you through the onboarding feature that's there on Android version. And on iOS, there is getting started, basic and advanced. And on the Android version, you can create your child's, there is a basic folder as well, and an advanced folder and other languages. So I have included screenshots. You can come back to this and go through it as and when you start using it. So we also try to formulate a sentence and sharing the message from the message box. So it's slightly different on the different versions. And then there is a mistake button. If you make a mistake, you can hit the mistake button and the AAC user can be trained actually to use these things. So I'll come to it later, but this is what is available. And these are some of the features that are really important. You can call for, we can then teach the child to call for a caregiver's attention by using this button. And then we saw how to formulate a message and how it can inculcate meaningful communication. So now let's move on to the settings of Avaz. So I'm going to screen share, mirror my phone again. So let me pause. So moving on to the settings of Avaz. So on the upper panel, there is settings. You have this settings. So you click on, you hit settings. So it's turned red. So that's where you can locate settings. So when you hit settings, when you choose settings, you get a drop-down menu. And let's begin exploring the picture settings. Okay, so here we have the picture settings, which means that you can, you have options as to how you want the pictures to appear on your child's app. Okay, so first we have the message box. So we all know where is the message box? What is the message box? So the message box is the bar, the white bar that you see on top. So where I'm pointing at. So this is currently turned on, which means that the message box is visible. So what happens if we turn it off? Suppose we don't want a lot of clutter, right? Or we do not want the message box, just to reduce the clutter and to make it really look plain. In that case, we can turn off the message box setting. So here, when I come out, so this is how it looks now. So there's less clutter. So I'm turning it on. Then comes pictures in the message box. So when we choose, so when we choose something, want. So this is how it looks now with the pictures turned on. So there is a picture for I and there is a picture for want. So those symbols are also coming along with the words. What happens if I turn off the pictures in the message box? So this is how it looks. Can you see the change? So there are no symbols coming along with the words. Okay. So this can be a feature that's useful when your child is learning to read words and you don't want the child to rely on symbols. So when you're facilitating a transition from symbols to pictures to text mode, when you want to bring in more of literacy intervention, so that's when you can use these settings. Okay, so let's turn the pictures back, and then we can also set the pictures per screen. So the number of pictures per screen, you can set that. So you can start with as basic as 1 picture per screen, and you can increase it to as much as 40 pictures per screen. So here you can see that it looks smaller, but it will have more pictures in the same screen. So the recommendation is that in the field of AAC, when it comes to good practice, the recommendation is to use as many pictures as possible, which means that as many as the child can see and touch on the screen. So always go for a higher number than starting with less. So the reason and all that will be explained to you in the next module, but just to show you what is possible. So let's set it at say 24 or maybe 15 now for more visibility for the demo's sake, but nothing less than 15 would be normally recommended unless the child has some visual impairment as such. So that will be discussed in detail later. So that's the pictures per screen. And then we can also set up the size of the caption. So caption means the words that we see above the symbols. So the I and want and stop. So we can make it, now it's set to medium, we can make it smaller. So which means that the caption size, the size of the text becomes smaller, but the picture grows a little larger. Or you can set it to no caption at all. So no text, only symbols. So this can be useful when you are beginning at a very beginner's level and the child is just being introduced to symbols. So for a very beginning communicator, this might be useful. So if you feel that there is no need to introduce text at this point, you can just go with no caption, no text, and only keep pictures. And as the child learns to identify the symbols, you can go about adding enlarging the size of the text. Or you can even keep it the other way around is you can keep it no caption, no image at all, only caption. So this could be useful for in two cases, where one is when the child is transitioning again from the symbol to text base. So the child is learning to read a lot of words and you want to maintain that. So you can turn off the symbols, and you can turn off the symbols selectively also for particular words as well. So, and in other case where the AAC user is an adult and or elderly, and they don't want to, they don't want those, pictures, that this can be used for them as well. This setting can be set. So I'm going to turn the I'm going to turn the picture. I'm going to set it to medium. Okay, so the next setting that we're going to check out is, or you can also have the captions above or below. So now it's above. You can have it below as well. So that's one feature. So what if your user, AAC user, child, or an individual has some visual impairment, as seen in cases of cortical visual impairment, or in partial vision loss, and in such cases, the high contrast mode can be turned on. So this makes the background dark, and it makes it more, it highlights the visibility is much more when the contrast is darker, right? So high contrast, this is called high contrast mode, and this is absolutely very useful when children have visual impairments. So this can be turned on. So I'm going to turn it off. And then there is color coding. So as we discussed earlier, the color coding, the color background is very useful for identifying the the parts of speech of the language. So if you don't want it, you can turn it off, completely turn it off. So you see something like this. Still there is some, color, but it's kind of off-white, and it's not that, there is no yellow, green, and blue and all that. So you can completely turn it off. This could be, again, useful in two cases where you don't want the child to rely on the parts of speech again. You want to take away that support, and you want the child to select irrespective of the color background. Or in cases where, again, if it's an adult and they don't want it to be too fancy, they want it to be kind of off-white, not too colorful, you can use this setting. So I'm going to, and there is one more, color code stripe, which means that you can see there is a line here. Still, there is some clue. If you're fading, this could be one stage, and then you can fade away completely. So it's a fading strategy. Okay, so I'm going to bring the color code background. Okay, so then moving on. So we are done with the appearance. So how we want the screen to appear. Now let's look at picture settings behavior. So here let's explore zoom feature. So I want to bring to your attention as to what's happening here when we are choosing a message.
Hi.
So you can see that there is that visual enhancement. The message pops up before it goes to the message box, right? That's called the zoom feature. So the zoom feature is turned on now, and this is really useful because when you're introducing the child to the app, this feature really gives a visual feedback, a visual enhancement, reinforcement. And it's also very useful when children have visual impairment or auditory hearing impairment. Visual impairment, the zoom feature again, gives a confirmation to the user that they chose the right word. And even in case of hearing impairment, the visual enhancement really helps the child to confirms that they made the right choice. So that's something very useful. So the zoom feature is a very useful feature. You can keep it on, you can keep it turned on if it's a beginning communicator. You can even choose the speed with which it zooms. So you can make it slow or fast. So I've set it at medium. So I've set it at medium. Okay. And then we have, we also have, children who have fine motor difficulties or tremors in their hands, where they're not able to make this, fine motor, choosing with the index finger and so on. Or, they might have tremors where the screen can, automatically, they can choose, it can go here and there. So in that case, what you can do is, there is a setting available. So you can choose page up and down. So normally what happens is, so I'm using my index finger to scroll, right? So I'm using it to scroll. But when you turn on the page up and down keys, okay, so here you see that on the right hand side menu bar, the previous and next button have come in place of alert and mistake buttons. So what happens now is, so when I use my index finger, it doesn't scroll. So what I need to do is,
Next.
I need to press next, and then it changes. It goes to the next page. And if I press previous, it goes to the previous previous page. So this will prevent accidental scrolling. Okay, so which is very useful for children with fine motor difficulties. Okay, so I'm turning it off. And then we have the quick and code words button on the right hand side menu. So this is one of the robust features of any AAC app, right? So we talked about, in situations where there is an emergency or where there is not much time for the AAC user to formulate a message by choosing individual words, or when the child is having a meltdown or a tantrum, or any other sort of situation where communication needs to happen quickly, and there needs, the child or the AAC user needs some pre-programmed phrases. This quick comes to rescue. So in quick, we have things like,
I want to go to the toilet.
I want to go to the toilet.
I want to go to the toilet.
And there are
it's an emergency
messages like, it's an emergency.
Wishes. Delete.
And there are also some wishes. It need not be an emergency situation, but it could be something where the messages are kind of set, like happy birthday is a set message. All the best, congratulations. So these kind of messages. So
go
quick,
back home.
So quick gives you those pre-programmed phrases. And this is actually interchangeable with code words. So when you go to settings, so you can either choose this place to be for quick phrases or for code words as well. But let's set it to quick right now, because we have the code words on our home page. We have the code words folder here. So we have quick and we have code words, right? Okay, so the next thing, I'll come to the grammar setting later. So let's move on to the audio settings. So I'll also take you through the keyboard settings and the grammar settings later on. So let's, we are looking at the basic settings right now. So under audio settings, we have voice. We can choose the voice. There are different voices available. Speed, female, male, and so on. And then we can reduce the rate of speech, and we can also vary the pitch. Okay. And under what to speak, we have speak everything, speak words, and speak only message box. So right now I have set it to speak everything, which means that, so if I go to advanced folder and I say,
I like,
and then I go back, I like
people.
So I go to a different folder. It's also labeling the folder, name of the folder. It said people. And then I say
family, mother.
And then I say
go back.
Go back. So it also, whatever you press, basically whatever you press, it says it aloud. So this gives an auditory feedback, and also it's kind of telling telling the ASC user how you're navigating, where you're navigating. So this could be a useful feature to use with a beginning communicator. So you're really actually out, speaking it aloud, like we say it aloud, thinking aloud. So it's actually saying everything that you are doing, the navigation aspect of it. But you can also
delete, home.
So you can also change the setting and say speak words. So what happens is it doesn't. Now let's try it out. So let's say
I like.
So when I hit people, it didn't name the folder people.
My.
It didn't again name the folder.
Mother.
So it's speaking only words. Okay.
I like my mother. Delete, 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 delete.
And another setting could be under what to speak. Speak only message box. So this is something that we can set, as per whether we're working with a beginning communicator and maybe they're transitioning to the next level. We can set it as speak words. If they're transitioning to they've become an advanced user, then you can set it to speak only message box. All right. So now what happens?
Home.
So I pressed I, but it didn't say it aloud. I like. So it didn't say any of these words, but when I hit the message bar,
I like my mother.
So only then it speaks it out. So
delete, 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 delete.
So again, there are different settings depending on what level your communicator is. Okay. So right. So there is also another under general settings. There is something called add password. So add password is something that you can again set for children who would be probably manipulating it a lot or changing it a lot, or in such cases you want to retain what you have programmed on the app. You don't want to disturb that. You can set a password. You can add a password. So it will ask you for a password. When you set a password, unless no changes can be made, I mean, no editing can be done unless you open it up with a password. Under settings, there is also, under general settings, there is also something called the settings wizard. So when you hit that, it says, let's set up Avaz. So this is available on both versions, Android and iOS. So this will, the intention behind this is to create, to customize it as much as possible for your child, to help you customize as much as possible for your child. So when I say proceed again, so these are the details that we've already filled, like I showed you when during onboarding. So you can go further ahead and you can choose, there are these prompt questions. These are the questions new to pictures, yes. Is your child using two-word phrases or forming simple sentences and so on? So if you go on, choosing it, it will help you customize. So if you have already, you haven't used the onboarding feature, so it says you can change it as many times as possible. It's not like once you've set, that's the ultimate thing.
Go back home.
So that can be, the wizard can be used when, and it's also useful when you're not able to access a speech therapist, speak language therapist, and the parent has to kind of learn it and do it all by themselves. So this is kind of a guidance for them. Okay, so we come to the end of settings.